Hi, Deacon John Wilson here, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. Well, it seems that, the federal administration, the Trump administration, is holding up educational funding from California. And he's doing it for other states, a lot of other states too. I think he's probably holding up certain block grants from certain states. And you might wonder why they're picking on California and about six other states. And this is where you've got to link up different stories you're hearing. And I'm here just to report why it's happening. I don't want to get all into the politics right now. Perhaps I'll do a separate video and post it somewhere else where you can see it when I go into the politics of it, but let's not do that today. So the reason funds are being held up from California is really three things that are going on right now. Number one, funding was threatened to be withheld from hospitals that are doing gender change surgery on youth, any kind of gender change on young people. In California, you can do that, but they do a lot with federal funds. And most of these hospitals take federal funds. So there's been a threat from the current administration to remove the funding from hospitals that'll do that. Now, I don't have the articles, but I know you heard Children's Hospital here in Los Angeles has decided they're not going to do any more gender affirming surgeries. That's what they call them when they're changing the gender. I guess the administration feels that the federal administration, and many of us feel this, it's just immoral to do that. There's a tiny percentage of youth that have true hormone issues, or it's like one in maybe a million or 10 million. And those they can sometimes deal with otherwise, or really don't need to have anything done to change them, because usually they're predominantly one or the other. That's very rare. But aside from that, gender change surgeries, that's how some hospitals have lost their funding because they won't agree not to do them. So then others have said they won't do them anymore. So that's one reason funds are being held up in California. The second reason is uh, not the fact that we have some transgender policies in the state, but specifically if they're letting men play in sports with women. If they just chemically changed and they have said that they're women, but there's a word for it where you declare you're one gender or the other. Then those biological males, even though they're bigger, stronger, their bones are different, just because you took some hormones, it can't reverse that you're a man playing against women. And I abhor and think it's disgusting. As a man who's had a young lady who played sports, she's grown up now, but I would not have stood for one. I wouldn't let her play against him. And a lot of fathers feel that, well, we need more fathers to speak up on that. But anyway, funding is being withheld, education funds from California, because they won't take a clear position on it and say that males cannot play against women. It's not a Title IX violation. I mean, it's going to the Supreme Court anyway. They're going to decide in 1972 whether they meant transgenders were included. And that's not in civil rights law right now. You'd need a act of Congress and or amendment to the Constitution. And I don't think any of those are forthcoming because 80% of Americans, I think it's 85, think that men and boys should not play against women and girls. So that's the second reason funding is being withheld to California. I hear that it's about $811 million, which represents about 5 to 7% of funding for education. Doesn't seem like a lot to you, but I hear it's going to cause a lot of interesting problems. And mark my words, they're going to try to raise taxes. And you have to ask yourself, do you have a problem with hospitals changing the gender? As a matter of fact, health clinics in the state are going to be required to administer chemical uh, puberty blockers at some point from kids in school who present with gender, with wanting to be another gender. Remember, these are minors. Now, when you're 18 years old, that's fine with me. You can do anything you want. I mean, I'm not going to agree with you, but does it really matter whether I agree or not? The question is, do you have a right to do it? You do. But I don't think a child should have that right. Now, if you think they should, maybe you are mad at the Trump administration for withholding funds. If you're a Bible believing Christian, I think you know what I'm talking about. Then this thing of men playing with women, if you think that's cool, that's an 85-15 issue. And it's an 80-20 issue about changing genders. Then there's this third thing that probably there's controversy over, and that is the fact we are a sanctuary state. And a sanctuary city, sanctuary city Long Beach, sanctuary city Compton, I think about 12 of them in California. And the state is the sanctuary state. I think the county of LA is a sanctuary county. Now, what does that mean? That means that agents of the federal government will not be allowed in the courts or in the jails, and nor will the city and state and county promise to turn over felons, even if they're violent, to ICE, if they're repeat offenders. Or nor will they, when they leave jail, they won't tell ICE when they're leaving jail. And these are illegal residents of the country that have committed crimes. In a sanctuary state, they do not have to be held for deportation. I think that's another 80-20 issue. I think 80% of people want felons to be deported. And a lot of people feel they have to have some kind of court hearing to be removed. But if they've committed a crime, they've violated the terms of their citizenship, and they don't get a hearing. They get to be detained and deported. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this. I know a lot of people are all upset. You think black people will be deported next? Not going to happen. And there's violence related to it. I saw guys throwing large stones at ICE vehicles when they raided that marijuana farm and found those children that were being held. It was atrocity. Now, I'm not here to talk about all that. I'm just here to say, what are the reasons why your son or daughter, well, why the public schools currently are having funds withheld by the Trump administration? And you can hate Trump all you want, but apparently they need that money. Now, that may be where I'm mistaken. The state may just push through the assembly an income tax increase in the state and drive more businesses out of the state. We've had 192 businesses leave the state. And when they leave, we lose tax base. I think 700,000 people have left in a year and a half. I have a lot of good friends, about at least 4 or 5, that have left the state. And their tax revenue leaves with them. I think we're headed for a tax increase to overcome these cuts by the federal government. Same thing with CSU and UC. If they just would declare the athletic part, they would get their funding. I think UCLA has taken more than adequate corrective action in USC too, but that's a private school. And I think Cal State LA, CSU also has taken enough corrective action in the matter of the Jewish student riots that were last year and the attacks on Jewish students. That seems to have been resolved. But I think we're down to this athletics thing. So 3 things. It's gender change of minors going after hospitals, and they're also penalized in schools because the school system does recognize when students declare themselves to be the opposite gender. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it is. It's the gender change. Males playing with females. And the idea that we're a sanctuary city or state. And because the last point, because the federal government can't be in the courts, can't be in the police stations, they can't be in the jails in the state, sanctuary state. That means they have to go through our neighborhoods and raid businesses that are breaking laws in order to find them. And I know everybody's concerned about them coming out. I'm concerned about some of the things I'm seeing too. But I also know, and I'll talk about root cause, the idea of a root cause, maybe next video. But I also know the root cause of this is that we will not comply, that we're a sanctuary state. And the thing is, I'm going to show you the sanctuary state provisions do require that you turn over felons to ICE and to the federal government, to the Border Patrol when they show up to courts. But they're not following it. I'm going to get a copy of that and I'm going to do a video on it. You might say it's not education related, but it is because they're holding up education funds for that reason. And so when you know friends of yours that are scared and they're hiding, it's because of the decision this state has made to be a sanctuary state. And I think it's going to hurt our children in schools. I mean, either that, why don't you just go ahead and raise taxes and make up for the loss of the federal funds or do some cutbacks if you want to hold your principles? But I don't think they're going to do it. Again, they're going to make the children suffer. I saw an article that promised raises to teachers and staff and CSU can no longer be done because of the cuts. Are we going to have a teacher strike over this? Come on, Newsom, wake up. Wake up. You can write an executive order suspending the sanctuary state, or you don't really have to. You can tell the counties and the cities they have to follow the applicable provisions of being a sanctuary state in California and a county and a city, which do allow for cooperation with ICE when you have in the courts and in the jails. All right, that's enough on that. Sorry I went so long. God bless you. Like and subscribe if you like this video, you want to improve our reach. Please subscribe to get videos like it. They won't be quite as hardcore as this. I mean, I'm going to talk about true education. You should have several things I want to talk about with 11th and 10th grade parents. I want to talk about SAT and several of the things we need to do here. God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.